So I have this problem where I now have two children and I no longer can use the underseat storage here in the Rivian. It was pretty important. I'm already kind of at a space constraint with the growing family. And so I'm trying to find a solution that I can use the available space in the cargo box here, or over the bed, I should say. I use these Gazelle or the Sleeper Keeper bracket, as you can see, one of them here, to hold my Gazelle tent, and usually a cargo box up there as well. But I want to actually also use some more of the available space up there and hopefully get some power out of it to help, cover the used power from my my refrigerator. So this is my goal here. We're going to be using a Pelican vault case. This one, of course, there's other ones you can use. You can grab some off of Harbor Freight or Amazon. Now, the problem with those is they have a lot of three-dimensional ridges along the whole exterior of the case, and I didn't really know how well the solar panels would mount to it. So I found that the Pelican one, you can see, is much more smooth. There's a couple areas where it's got that texture, but there's just a way greater amount of surface area that this can adhere to, and the little texture is actually not that deep anyways. Of course, if you want the best performance, you can try to find a rigid panel. I could not find any that would fit. So this is I tried and had a few different panels delivered, and this is the best one that I could find. So you probably could this is the V800 Pelican case, and I'll have some links to all these things below, including the panel and the case. And they do sell a couple different ones. There's like a V730 and 700, and so your mileage may vary with which one you actually need to get to work appropriately for your use case. But this is the one I chose to go with. Also, you'll notice that I'm doing a voiceover here because for some reason, even though I'm just recording this normally on my iPhone, it didn't record any audio for the first half of this. So apologies, but that explains the lip sync issue. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and work on adhering this. If you've ever looked up anything online about solar panels, or maybe you already know this, they obviously do not work very well when they're experiencing high heat and high temperatures. So what you want to do is try to find a way to get them to have some like airflow over them, under them, to help bring those temperatures down. When it's adhered to something like this, that's not the easiest, right? So what you can use is, you may see some of the Aussies post about this. They call it Coreflate, I believe it is, which is a brand name. Here, you can just go to any old hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, what have you, and it's usually just called Twin Wall. It's basically that poster board material that you used, but it's made out of plastic and not some kind of foam. So I grabbed this piece here. It's a 30 by 36 inch, which will be enough. I just have to do some trimming and kind of stick two pieces together. It was only $11. They do sell larger sheets, but this one worked well for me. So I'm just gonna, get this thing lined up and trim it to size, and then we'll start adhering it to the case. So as I mentioned, finding these cases to be the right fit for the case and the solar panel it's a bit tricky because just, if you're not there physically measuring out the case itself, the measurements on the exterior include those like latches and protrusions on the side. So it was a little bit of hit and miss to make sure that I got a proper panel that would fit without overhanging. This one, I believe it was like 19 something inches. You can find the information online in the listing from below, but I ended up finding one that I thought would fit. It was maybe a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch hanging over. I was trying to do a 55 watt and a 35 watt, run them in parallel. There really wasn't any solar benefit. I was getting maybe like 4 or 5 extra watts from that the 55 watt would put out in itself because of a panel mismatch. So I did do quite a bit of research and trial and error and testing out some different panels, trying to best fit for the surface area. But you run into these issues where, of course, the voltage and amperage of the panels are just a mismatch. So they don't really benefit. If you do have an EcoFlow, Delta 2 Max, I believe, and Pecrons and some of these other solar generators that have multiple solar inputs, then you could just wire them directly, and that would be great. But if you are just working with a portable generator, a battery pack that's just got one input, then this is more or less what you're limited to. So heads up there. So to adhere the panel, there's different ways you can do this. Of course, I actually have seen online that you can actually use suction cups, which is pretty rowdy. I'd be interested to see if anyone has success with that on their car. Like I've got a Rivian and it's got a glass roof, so I guess technically I could, but I'd be quite concerned about it flapping around the middle sections. Maybe you could stick some foam or something there so it doesn't vibrate in the wind or flap in the wind too much, but that's technically an option. There's also, of course, epoxies and kind of silicone glues and stuff, different things. What I'm using is 3M's VHB, which is the very high bonds double-sided tape. For what it's worth, I believe this is what Tesla uses for their little spoilers they put in the back of the performance cars, the performance models. So it's good enough for them. I know they get peeling issues and whatnot, but that's probably more due to a fitment issue with the curvature of the carbon fiber spoiler to the actual body, but it should work plenty well here. I've also seen that some trailer companies use these VHB tape to keep the exterior panels of the trailers like adhered to the inner structure. So, I mean, if it's good enough for them, I'm sure it's going to be good enough for here. If I do have any issues where this starts to delaminate and kind of come up in the wind, I'll definitely do an update. I will say the majority of the time this will be running above my truck bed, which will be mostly out of the wind. But there will be in the future here, I'll be running it likely on my above the cab of the truck, so that'll be in the more in the wind there. But I'll update anything in the comments if I have any issues with this, as well as maybe post a short or something like that to kind of describe it in more detail. So you can see that I've actually added some gaps in the tape here, and I'm going to do it again underneath the solar panel. I'm doing this because I think it might be a good idea, right? The water inevitably always gets into different areas, whether it's condensation or just intrusion, and so you do want to have a place for that to seep out and evaporate out. That being said, it also just gives more areas for it to ingress and get in there. So we'll see how it goes. And it's also potentially a way for a little bit more air to get in and out and to cool it as well. So definitely an experiment. We'll see how it goes.
All right, another pro tip. Use a blade to peel that thing up. Otherwise, I'll be spending 20 minutes like I just did. Okay. Now this is the actual real moment of truth. So careful, obviously, how much you press on this. Most of this tape not most of this tape really adheres and cures in high heat, they say. So, well, good news is a solar panel. It's going to be sitting in the high heat. But yeah, there she is. So, I'll show you a close-up. Okay, so here's what it looks like. So that's the twin wall or core plate, but you can see we'll see exactly how much air cooks through that, but you also want to make sure that's the direction you're cutting it, so the air will channel through. But I think it came out pretty sharp, pretty nice. And you can see also the sizing of this panel. I was able to stick it right within these lines here, and it's equal in the back. So it's pretty much the biggest panel you can get. You can try to, if you get lucky or maybe a new one comes out, maybe a 75 watt or 60 watt that would go to the end of the case. Good on you. But this is what I've come up with, and you also be dealing with this to adhere it. I think the V7700, 7300, a couple other ones would still fit this panel because there's a little bit shorter of a case, same width, but you'd be adhering maybe to the end point, but your mileage may vary. So this side will be where my tent goes. I use these sleeper keepers to hold the Gazelle. These are pretty sweet. The bolts there, I gotta adjust that one and move it over, obviously, and that's gonna go actually a little bit further out. Those are for my cargo roof box. So those are pretty slick. This isn't on there right now. But here it is. So you can see, let me step back here, pretty sharp looking. It'll do in terms of sizing. I think it fits. I mean, it's big, but I need storage and I want space for the solar, so that will do. That will do. Okay, here's an update to what we're working with. Here's the cargo box installed, and you can see that I've got room for the tent on this side, and here is where this bad boy's gonna fit, and we don't have enough horizontal space, so that's where we're gonna go with my jank but brilliant idea is using solar panel brackets. You can see I have to kind of go off the backside here because this is, of course, taller when open. But here, at least if I'm not taking the cargo box, I can lay this thing a lot more flat, and allows me to adjust it while I'm at camp to get better sun angle instead of it just always being super flat. Kind of hilarious. And of course, getting back there to adjust these things with the case in place, we'll see if my arm can even do that, but it's a good idea. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a shot.
So this is the final masterpiece here. I'm going to probably rattle can the solar panel brackets black so they kind of blend it a bit more, but it's very sturdy. You can see here I'm shaking and it's just moving the whole truck. There's no extra play in the system. And of course I had to clear the cargo box when it's in its open state. So yeah, the angle helps me get a little bit better sun angle when I'm driving, usually in the mornings and evenings, in between locations, you know, all depending on if it's pointed to the right location of the sun. I can flip the crossbars around on the Rivian, so everything could be pointing on the passenger side versus the driver's side. And what I have done is I've used the same bolt spacing from the ones I drilled into the Pelican case that are actually the exact same size on the crossbars itself. So if I'm not running that cargo box, I can just drop that thing flat on the crossbars itself. For those of you looking for aero impact, that's what it looks like. It's not very protruding, so we'll see. I'll report back if there's anything worth mentioning.